Commissioner Gordon, Bane has escaped.
You don't manifest what you want, you manifest what you are. Not what you say, not what you hope, what you embody. The universe responds not to your desires, but to your frequency. And your frequency is dictated by how you think when no one is watching, how you move when no one is clapping, and how you choose when the outcome is uncertain. Like attracts like, not in theory, but in vibration, in consistency, in resonance. You call things into your life not because you chase them, but because your internal architecture leaves them no choice. Energy seeks its echo. Power finds its reflection. You can't fake this. You don't magnetize greatness by performing it. You do it by becoming it. People think attraction is magic. It's not, it's math. If your thoughts are calibrated to lack, you will find lack everywhere. If your energy screams scarcity, the world will mirror it back. That's the algorithm. That's the feedback loop. But flip it, build an identity rooted in certainty, precision, and vision, and you'll watch doors open that others don't even see. Not because the doors weren't there before, but because you were knocking with the wrong hand. Like attracts like, and when your being is aligned, you stop begging for alignment from others. You become the invitation. That's not law of attraction, that's law of embodiment. Every day your thoughts cast votes, every decision reinforces identity, and that identity becomes a signal. People feel it, energy doesn't lie. You walk into a room, and before you speak, the room speaks back to you, not in words, but in posture, in attention, in how the world adjusts itself in your presence. If you carry chaos, chaos finds you. If you walk in calm certainty, resistance crumbles. Like attracts like. Not by force, by frequency. You don't get what you chase, you get what you mirror. Look around. Who do you attract? What situations repeat? What habits keep resurfacing? These are not accidents, they are reflections. And the moment you shift from blaming the mirror to adjusting the source, everything changes. That's how the conqueror thinks. He doesn't react to reflections. He reshapes the projection. He rewires the signal. Because he knows the world isn't responding to his wants. It's responding to his wiring, and when that wiring is cleaned, aligned, and relentless, the world must match it. It has no choice. People search for answers outside themselves, but attraction begins in the shadows, where your self-concept lives. You'll never attract discipline if you still see yourself as inconsistent. You'll never pull loyalty into your life if you secretly don't trust your own. And you'll never meet love if your subconscious still believes you're unworthy of it. You don't attract based on potential. You attract based on permission, like attracts like. And if what you're drawing in disturbs you, the answer is not to manipulate the world. The answer is to recalibrate your reflection. This is why affirmations fall flat when spoken from a fractured identity. You can repeat abundance into the mirror all day, but if your spine folds under pressure, your life will reflect scarcity. You don't attract with noise, you attract with presence, with repetition, with the silent congruence between what you say and what you do when no one's watching. That's the broadcast. That's what the universe listens to. Words are cheap. Frequency is expensive. And life only pays out in the currency of who you are, not who you pretend to be. The most dangerous lie you can tell yourself is that you're unlucky, that life is random, that the things you keep encountering are just unfortunate repetitions. No. They're invitations to look inward, to study your posture, your triggers, your emotional set point. Because like attracts like, and until you adjust the emotional default, the external loop will not change. Different faces, same new location, same emptiness. Because you didn't change you changed the wallpaper. The conqueror doesn't redecorate his life, he reprograms it. From the core. If you want to attract better, become better. Not through hype, but through integrity. You align your actions with your values, you sharpen your thinking, you command your habits, and through that alignment, you begin to broadcast a signal that calls in everything you've been trying to chase. The irony? When you finally become the version of yourself who no longer needs the thing, that's when it arrives, not as a prize, but as a match. The reward is not what you attract, it's who you had to become to attract it. The slow conqueror thinks in energy, in architecture, in engineering himself to become the type of man that outcomes orbit. He doesn't wait for life to hand him better opportunities. He prepares so meticulously that the opportunity has no choice but to show up. This is not arrogance, this is alignment. It's knowing that when your inner world reaches a certain level of coherence, the external world will organize around it like metal shavings to a magnet. Not instantly, but inevitably. The world doesn't bend to your affirmations, it bends to your alignment. You can think the highest thoughts, script the most abundant future, and chant mantras into your mirror until your breath fogs the glass, but if your subconscious blueprint is screaming unworthy, the universe will follow that blueprint, not your surface-level performance. Your reality is not shaped by what you think you deserve, it's shaped by what your nervous system believes is familiar. And the subconscious doesn't run on language, it runs on pattern, memory, emotion. If your past is coded with rejection, abandonment, mediocrity, and you haven't recoded that emotional truth, then that's the frequency you're radiating. Not what you say you want, but what you've learned to survive. And what you've learned to survive, you unconsciously recreate until you notice, until you rewire. This is where most people sabotage their future. They visualize greatness, they dream of power, wealth, love, but beneath those dreams is a foundation built in fear. They want the prize, but they're calibrated to punishment. So when the reward appears, they either push it away or sabotage it subtly. They ghost opportunity. They forget to follow through. They dull their performance to match their internal ceiling. It's not fear of success that kills them. It's incompatibility with their own evolution. Like attracts like. And when you emit a signal your nervous system doesn't recognize as home, it short circuits. That's why you feel the chaos, the static, the near-miss moments that haunt you. It wasn't a failure of effort, it was a failure of congruence. You asked for a life your subconscious hadn't caught up to yet. There's a difference between wanting something and being able to hold it. That's the realm of self-pity. And your self-inhaled is not a conscious sculpture, it's a subconscious inheritance, built from your childhood, your trauma, your cultural conditioning, your repeated emotional loops. You can't outthink it. You can't fake frequency, you must tune the signal. And tuning the signal means confronting what you truly believe about yourself when there is no performance left to hide behind. When you are stripped of applause, titles, trophies, what remains? That's the identity that shapes your magnetism. Not the curated one, the raw one, the emotional one. And that version is either attracting your future or repelling it. So the question isn't, how do I manifest better outcomes? The real question is, what part of me believes I'm still undeserving of them? Because until that question is answered honestly, nothing you chase will stick. You will hustle. You will burn out. You will build the house and then set it on fire because some wounded part of you cannot accept peace, cannot accept being chosen, cannot accept rising above the chaos it was programmed to recreate. That's the prison. And most never escape it because they never dare to challenge the subconscious rules written in pain and passed off as personality. Here's the truth they don't teach you in self-help books. You will never consistently receive more than your identity allows. And identity is not a thought. It's a repetition, a loop. You become what you rehearse. If you rehearse guilt, shame, smallness, you will draw in lives that validate those rehearsals. And when something greater enters your field, your subconscious will resist. It will discredit it, delay it, destroy it. Because evolution without internal coherence is interpreted as threat. So if you want to truly rise, don't just set goals, set identity anchors. Align your actions with the version of you who already believes they deserve the life you're asking for. Not later. Now. You want to know why that relationship didn't work out? Why the job never came through? Why the respect didn't last? It wasn't a cosmic punishment. It was a vibrational correction. You didn't match what you asked for, or worse, you matched something, then reverted. Because the identity that first attracted it was only borrowed, not owned, not fused into the nervous system. So the moment friction hit, the identity cracked, and everything built upon it collapsed. This isn't failure, this is feedback. The world is always showing you who you are in motion, not who you hope to be, who you are on loop. The conqueror knows this. He doesn't rely on hype. He doesn't confuse excitement with elevation. He works on the root, the subterranean programming, while others chase the fruit. He rewrites the emotional contracts he signed in silence. He adjusts his self-peace not through fantasy, but through embodied proof. He stacks wins. He rewires beliefs. He builds congruence until what he wants and what he expects are no longer in conflict, because he knows the only sustainable power is that which the subconscious believes is safe to hold. Not impressive, not desirable, safe. If your nervous system doesn't feel safe having it, you'll push it away. No one teaches you this growing up. They tell you to work hard, to set goals. But no one tells you to recalibrate your deservingness. No one tells you that you can sabotage opportunity simply because your self-concept hasn't evolved to carry it. But that's the secret. That's the architecture of attraction. It's not the thought, it's the alignment. It's the quiet congruence between who you say you are and what your subconscious expects the world to give you. Until those match, you will keep replaying the same loops, different mask, same ache. So pause, reflect. What do you keep attracting? What outcome keeps finding its way back to your life despite your best intentions? That's not a coincidence. That's your broadcast. And if you want to change the reception, you must change the transmission. Not louder, not faster, clearer, truer, more honest, more integrated. Because like attracts like. And if what you're getting doesn't reflect what you want, it's time to stop broadcasting fantasies and start becoming the person who expects and accepts that life. That's the real work. Everything else is decoration. This is the law beneath all other laws, not attraction but embodiment. The frequency of your life reflects the frequency of your identity. Thoughts may inspire, but identity determines. You only attract what your subconscious believes you deserve. Anything higher creates static. and static repels opportunity disguised as chaos. The way forward is simple. Tune the signal, clean the broadcast, align the being. Then watch the mirror adjust. That's how like attracts like. Conviction is a frequency. It doesn't ask for approval. It doesn't negotiate presence. It simply is, and people follow it. Not because they understand it, but because it demands orientation. You walk into a room with it and the energy tilts. Conversations shift. Eyes adjust. Not because of your resume or your vocabulary, but because of the clarity in your spine. That's the law. People don't respond to your ambition. They respond to your certainty, to your silent "I will." You think you need to convince the world with effort, noise, and explanation, but the conqueror never begs. He radiates. He knows the pitch is unnecessary when belief is calibrated beneath the skin. Unspoken belief creates the gravitational field. It's not what you say. It's what your presence announces before words arrive. Goals are decorations. Conviction is structure. And everyone senses the difference. A man with goals may speak loudly, post daily, and rehearse motivation. But a man with conviction doesn't speak of becoming. He simply operates as if he already is. No announcement, no broadcast, just alignment. When people look at him, they feel the inevitability. And inevitability is contagious. People rally behind it, they mirror it. Not because they were persuaded, but because they were recalibrated by proximity. That's leadership at its root. Not inspiration, but transmission. Conviction infects. It codes the atmosphere. When you walk with it, the world adjusts its posture. You wonder why some people listen when others shout and still go unheard. It's not charisma. It's not articulation. It's ownership. Those who move with ownership don't need to demand attention. They command it. Because conviction cuts through the fog. It slices through distraction. It doesn't ask for your ears. It seizes your nervous system. And that's how people decide who to trust. Not by logic, by feel. Subconsciously, they scan you for consistency, for emotional posture, for incongruence. And when they feel conviction without contradiction, they follow, even if they don't know why. That's the ancient pull of embodied certainty. That's the aura the indecisive can't fake. This is why so many talented people remain invisible. They mistake ambition for magnetism. But ambition doesn't attract, certainty does. Your dreams don't pull people in, your belief in those dreams does. And that belief cannot be staged. It lives in how you carry disappointment, how you handle silence, how you proceed without applause. If your actions dim under pressure, no one will buy your vision because people mirror your conviction. And when conviction cracks, trust evaporates. Your tone drops, your impact dissolves, and your movement becomes a performance instead of a march. Now consider this. How often have you tried to sell a vision you hadn't sold to yourself yet? How many times have you pitched a dream your nervous system didn't recognize as yours? That dissonance, they feel it. They might not say it, but they sense the split. And when your internal reality doesn't match your external projection, it's like speaking in two frequencies at once. And no one follows noise. They follow signal. And the clearest signal you can emit is identity that's already moved in to the life you say you're building. You don't pitch conviction. You walk in it. You see, influence has nothing to do with volume. The conqueror doesn't raise his voice. He lowers the room. Because his conviction is not reactive, it's rooted. It comes from a place that existed long before the conversation began. It's not an idea, It's a decision made long ago, carved into the structure of his being. And when you speak from that place, even your silence has weight. That's why some men are heard before they speak, because the room already knows what kind of soul just entered it, not because he announced himself, but because his conviction introduced him. Your self-belief is not for motivation, it's your operating system. It determines how people treat you, how they invest in you, how they align with you, not based on what you say, but based on what your actions whisper. Every boundary you uphold, every standard you maintain, every moment you say no to chaos, that's what tells the world, this one doesn't need convincing. He already knows. And people crave that kind of stability because it anchors them. So they mirror it. And in doing so, they reinforce it. That's the compounding power of conviction. It doesn't just attract, it amplifies. Unspoken belief, that's the real pitch. And it begins with how you look at yourself. Do you see someone the world should follow, or someone still asking permission to lead? Because if your gaze carries doubt, the world will reflect it. If your posture leaks hesitation, people will test it. And if your tone stumbles, others will fill it with their own. But when your inner landscape is anchored, when your self-concept is not seeking confirmation, your silence becomes persuasive. Your presence becomes a prophecy. That's how movements are born. Not from noise, from internal, non-negotiables. So train your conviction like a muscle. Stack proof. Face discomfort. Choose consistency when your emotions rebel. That's how belief becomes identity. And once it does, you'll no longer try to convince anyone. Your life will speak. Your habits will echo. Your standards will lead. And those in your orbit will recalibrate. Not because you told them to, but because you reminded them what alignment feels like. And when that happens, there's no going back. You become the frequency. And frequency never chases, it pulls. Outcomes do not answer your words, they answer your weather. And your internal weather is not determined by a single sunny thought. It's the climate you cultivate, the emotional ecosystem you return to, repeatedly, daily, in silence, when no one's watching. That's the invisible blueprint of attraction. You may smile in public, affirm in the mirror, scream gratitude into your journal, but if the majority of your inner hours are spent in self-betrayal, nothing shifts. Why? Because the universe doesn't respond to sporadic highs. It mirrors sustained frequencies. One good day won't rewrite your life, but 1,000 consistent, emotionally charged inner states, that becomes infrastructure, not magic. Pattern. And pattern over time becomes personality, which becomes magnetism. Think about this. Who gets more from life? The person who forces positivity for 10 minutes a day, or the one who regulates their mind like an instrument, constantly recentering, adjusting, and attuning to a state of aligned clarity? The latter doesn't need to hope for miracles. They become inevitable. Because they are not reacting to life, they are conditioning life to react to them. That's what most people never understand. They chase moments of happiness as if stacking enough of them will rewrite their narrative. But a moment of joy isn't a blueprint. It's a flare. What matters is where your baseline returns after the flare fades. That's your true attractor field. You've seen this in people without understanding it. The ones whose lives seem unfairly abundant, not because they're lucky, but because they've trained their nervous system to stabilize in gratitude, in joy, in mission. Their emotional posture is not a reaction, it's a choice they rehearsed until it became default. And now, that default pulls matching events toward them like gravity. Peaceful minds, attract peaceful opportunity, not because the world is fair, but because coherence creates visibility, and the world notices those whose signal never scrambles. Chaos blends in, clarity stands out. That's how reality bends. But most live in contradiction. They want success, but worry is their default. They crave love, but insecurity is their soundtrack. They say, "I'm ready," but every cell screams, "Not yet." So what do they attract? Inconsistency, silence, loops. Because you do not attract what you want, you attract what you return to. You are a magnet for whatever emotion you rehearse most often, and the longer you rehearse an inner state, the more life assumes that's what you're built for. So it delivers accordingly. You think this is about mindset. It's not. It's about identity-level repetition. If your inner world doesn't evolve, your outer world will only ever fluctuate. It may tease you with breakthroughs, offer you glimpses, but nothing will last unless your internal state can sustain.